So today, we know there's lots of talk about employer branding. We know it's an important topic that everybody wants to learn more about and do more about. But what we want to do today was to give you a bit of a more of a practical understanding, share a few stories about where we've done it, where it's worked well, and who it's worked well for. So we wanted to talk about people who are, hopefully, just like you. So this is Nick from Vodafone, this is Hannah from YBS, Shelley from One Manchester, and our Helen from Assurance. So we're going to talk to you about their stories, how they've used employer brand to solve real-life problems. They all, at some point or other, started on the employer branding journey. Now, we kind of say the journey's not linear. It will involve these points, but very few organisations start at the beginning and go to the end. In fact, arguably, there isn't an end point. I liken this to a little bit more like a tourist hop-on, hop-off bus, you know, like you have in Dublin and Edinburgh, etc., where you're going to get on at one point and you'll probably get off and you'll do a little bit more, then you'll hop on again and you might hop on further down the line. But this is the journey, typically, that from point to point that people will make on their employer branding route. So if we talk through that.
Thank you. So if it is an ideal scenario and we are starting with discovery, right at the beginning of the journey, what's really important is understanding what message you can take to market and what is your people deal, and really getting under the skin of that so that when you go to market, you're confident about what you're saying and who you're saying it to. So yes, that starts with research, and everybody rolls their eyes when they have to put budget towards doing focus groups, but it is really important. So we just want to cover, not in great detail, but just some real obvious points that are often forgotten about doing the discovery part of EVP. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but yes, you need to talk to your own people. But what's really important in doing that is cutting through as much of the population as you possibly can. Don't forget some of those far-reaching locations, some of the unusual skill sets. It's really important that everybody is included, or else people are going to be a bit sceptical about how it's been created. One of the other areas that we find when we're doing the research side of EVP is that stakeholders, more often than not, are very negative and mark down the employer reputation more than your own employees will do. And that's a common theme, because they know all the crap that's going on behind the scenes. They've got all the baggage and history of everything that's happened before, and they hold on to it, and they keep apologising for it. So as well as the research, it helps you uncover your propositions. It also helps the stakeholders move on. It's like holding a mirror up, and it's often an awkward conversation, but with confidence you can say, stop apologising for it. You've got some real things to celebrate. Let's start being positive about it. We also need to look at your competitors. If you've got a brilliant inclusion and flexibility strategy like Grant Thornton, if you're not talking about it, nobody will know that. So you need to look at, that's probably a massive variety of who your talent competitors are, and look at where you match up to them. And there might be some real obvious points of a great health and safety record, but unless you're saying it, your competitors will be, and your talent won't know that about you. So research offers us opportunities to find things out in lots of different areas. So that helps us uncover what we can say and what we should be saying about you as an organisation. The fun bit, the enjoyable bit, which everybody loves, is the creation part. And there's a couple of, again, obvious points to make here. Richard was talking earlier about the multi-channel approach that we now use as resources. There are numerous channels, numerous ways of using those channels, and actually the budget for EVP needs to be realigned and reproportioned somewhat, because quite often people will come to us and say, we've got some budget at the end of the year, we want to develop our employer proposition. That's great, but what are you going to do with it after? If there's no budget left, nothing's going to happen. You're not going to see a return. So budgets need to be realigned a little bit, because actually the effort and the focus and the volume of content that we're having to create now is really quite high. Even for a basic programmatic campaign, you can be creating 50 or 30 different sized banners. So it's not just 8 pretty pictures and a few videos. It's actually an ongoing commitment and budget needed for that content creation. Okay, so once we've, other point to make, internal and external. So the employer brand isn't just an attraction effort. We also need to create messaging and content that's relevant to the internal audience, because you've got brilliant talent in the organisation. They should be your brand ambassadors, but you'll need to talk to them differently than how you talked to them before they joined you, and they'll be staying for different reasons than what they joined you for originally. They might be 2 years on in their experience with you. So that creation of brand assets and content and tools will differ depending on who you're talking to. So one of the really important points when you've developed your EVP is getting everybody. Is that my mic? Sorry. I'm a bit fidgety.
As long as it's not your lunch.
It's about getting everybody on board. There are lots of people in the organisation that can help you make this really successful. In talent and resourcing, you can't just do it on your own. The responsibility for developing the EVP might have fallen into the TA team, but actually bringing it to life and embedding it and activating it in the organisation is the responsibility of much wider teams. What we do when we've helped an organisation develop and create their brand is then run an activation programme. And quite often we'll have 15 or 20 representatives from the organisation from other areas that can then carry that brand forward. So one example, we're working with Yorkshire Building Society. Last week we had their brand activation kick-off, and we had 15 people in the room, and that was internal comms, marketing, culture, training, the induction teams, the management development team, and we educated them and informed them as to what we've created and why, gave them the evidence and some of the stories behind it, so they believed that it had been developed from the real people in the organisation. And at the end of that session, they were all really bought in, and they gave their sort of 3-point pledge at the end as to what they were going to do and what they were going to take away to embed and activate this brand. And then talked about the tools and assets that they would need as an individual team to do that. So it's really important that we bring everybody along on that journey as well. So then comes the important bit of marketing, which is normally where everybody wants to jump to straight away. And this is what we're going to talk about with the 4 case studies. So from a marketing point of view, we work with something called the 4 C's, which we've created. So this is about marketing, not just in the recruitment process, but you should be embedding the employer brand throughout your commitment, contribute and commend. So whilst people join you, they're performing for you and they're staying with you. But then if they're leaving, that they're your brand advocates as well.
So, first we're going to talk about the consider phase. This is where people are making direct comparisons between you and your talent competitors, and they're really deciding whether or not they want to even think about joining you. So this is Nick, and our Nick was given the lovely task of opening a contact centre in Wythenshawe, which is about 10 miles south, whichever direction is south of here. Highly competitive market in terms of location and skill set in that area. And also, he needed to battle against something. Most people in the room might think it's a dream working for Vodafone. Well, Vodafone is changing quite a lot as an organisation. It doesn't want to be known as a data business, and certainly not a phone seller. It sees itself as a technology business. And it is actually doing some really cool, exciting stuff. But from a brand perspective, it's a dad brand. I was talking to a client yesterday, and I didn't realize it was a dad brand because I'm a dad. And so I just thought it was a brand. It was a pretty cool brand. And then I talked to my kids about it, and they said, no, it's giffgaff, Dad, and it's EE, and it's O2, etc. So they are a dad brand. And what they're looking to do is to recruit a younger audience and to compete against in an area where they had low competitive awareness or low talent awareness. So we're not saying that we built the future is exciting ready. I think if we built that, we could retire quite comfortably. Obviously, that's their consumer strapline. So this is a good example where a consumer team have said, employer brand, you're having a laugh. Here we go. This is our strapline. Crack on. So what we needed to do was to think about how we were going to take and evolve messages that still worked within that marketing framework, but delivered from a recruitment perspective. So we looked at thinking about the different personas, and I think this is a theme emerging from certainly the conversations I've listened to and heard today, that thinking differently about the different types of people, a one-size-fits-all that Toby talked about earlier approach doesn't work. Think about the different personas. So here, we were thinking about specifically these personas for this particular campaign. And we wanted to broaden the channel mix, because doing the same thing just wasn't going to work anymore. Doing the same thing as everybody else just wasn't going to hack it. But at the same time, because we all live in the real world, don't we? It was, yeah, do some great, exciting new stuff, but don't charge me anymore and make sure it makes me look good because I've improved the bottom line and the cost per hire. Okay? Just the usual run-of-the-mill challenge. So what we did was we created a campaign that was very much driven around personas, very much driven about delivering the propositions of the future's exciting and ready, and showing the different characters, bringing to life the different characters that worked in the contact centres for Vodafone. But in order to help us pinpoint those messages, we used an Experian profiling tool. So Experian help marketers deliver marketing messages to all of us every single day. There are 64, maybe 66 different profile types, and we will all fit into one or a number of these profiles. And what it enables us to do is to think about the different motivators and where these people are. So we were able to identify from looking at the current employee base, who were the high performers within Vodafone, and we were able to then pinpoint, using that information, the types of people we wanted to direct our messages to. And what Experian's really good at, is it tells us exactly where they are, where they live, what media they consume, and how we can take those messages to that passive audience that is not sitting there or waking up in the morning thinking, I think I'll apply for Vodafone today. So for this particular campaign, it was about the affordable fringe renting room. They've got some really quite bizarre titles, which I'll share another time. So this really helped us hone down the media channels, the audience motivation, and also the design and the tone of voice. Because everything we did, we thought, is it going to resonate with this audience? So we were able to use all that information to deploy a heavily programmatic-based advertising campaign, but also to think, so that we were pretty confident that was going to deliver the numbers. But we wanted to, on the brief, be a little bit more creative and trial something else. So we were able to find the budget to use something called Sky Outsmart. Does anybody in the room know what Sky Outsmart is? Have you seen any of their adverts on there? So this is the technology whereby the Sky boxes in our houses learn about us. And we're able to overlay the information from Experian over the profiles of the people, and therefore we're able to show specific adverts on people's Sky boxes to just that house. People are shaking heads and thinking, this is a big brother, this is a scary world. But this is what happens. Me sitting watching Bolton Wanderers get beat by Aston Villa on a Friday night, we'll be seeing a different advert to people down the road. Probably having a better time than I was. So we're able to use that and really pinpoint these houses and take that message into them. So we're able to create what we are not sure if it's the first, but it's certainly one of the first Sky-based TV campaigns from a recruitment perspective for Vodafone. And hopefully, he says signalling really subtly, is this. Right.
Join our brilliant contact centre team in Wythenshawe. Apply today at vodafone.uk/Wythenshawe.
So the next short story to tell is about Yorkshire Building Society. So as mentioned, we're nearing the end of developing and launching their new employer brand, held together by the strapline Your Brilliant Self. And it's quite an emotional proposition that Yorkshire Building Society have, in that they put an incredible amount of investment and effort and passion into enabling their own people to be their brilliant selves. But that's not just in work, they also help people do that outside of work with things like greater flexibility and support for volunteering and stuff. So there's a lot of great messages and stories being developed around that. But whilst that piece of work was being done over the last few months, the team had said to us, look, we need to recruit apprentices. We need to do more work in that. We are attracting high numbers of applications, but we're losing the best people. They're losing the best people to the Santanders, the Lloyds, the big people in Leeds and Bradford, and they were getting the not so great applications. So really practical stuff here that hadn't been done that we implemented. All quick win stuff, nothing innovative here at all. They wanted to showcase the new employer brand. It was a little bit early days for that because it wasn't yet developed. But we just did normal day-to-day stuff like putting typical content on the careers site relevant to apprentices that wasn't there before. They were really keen to keep the human feel of Yorkshire Building Society. They're going through massive transformation at the moment. If you don't know them, you probably think of them as the old mutual traditional building society. They're actually going through quite a tough few years transforming in financial services. We did some refreshed content for the careers site. We used some audience segmentation to really understand the apprentices that were the best apprentices, but the best ones that would fit in Yorkshire Building Society. They're not right for everybody, and it was really important that this content attracted the right apprentices and not just everybody. Wasn't a great budget for this, and some real typical executions, new photography. We used their apprentices who had joined in the last 2 years. We got them to do some content and to tell their story. And then from a career site point of view, dedicated pages and content about being an apprentice at YBS. But we sat down with the apprentices and asked them what would be of use to you when you are looking for an employer. So they told us the types of content and information that they would find valuable, but also what their parents or their guardians and influencers would find informative and valuable as well. So it's really important that we didn't just play to their tune, and we thought about everybody that was helping them apply and start a career at YBS. So there's just very basic content on their site that wasn't there before that has helped with the conversion of the apprenticeship audience.
Okay. So I seem to be doing the local stories, Caroline. Have you noticed this? I've got One Manchester now. So One Manchester, who are, I'm going to go even closer, probably about 3 miles in that direction, are a housing association that was formed from the merger of 2 other housing associations about 3 years ago. This is a really good example, actually, of where doing an employer brand can be quite a cathartic exercise for the senior stakeholders, because it was my pleasure or dubious task to stand in front of all the key stakeholders and tell them, stop beating yourselves up. the people out there in your business are no longer talking about the two organisations you used to be. They've moved on. Why haven't you? And so the whole point of this exercise was more about internally focused. So this exercise, it was more in the, and this is Shelley, and Shelley actually works for marketing. So this is a great example also where marketing are dovetailing with the HR team. And she wanted to look at how she could harmonise the organisation, how she could communicate internally, and really ensure that people were contributing. But a lot, also we've talked today about pride. So a lot of this exercise was about telling their stories, the stories that existed within the organisation, and enabling people to tell their stories to one another. This organisation is a phenomenal organisation. It does a great deal of amazing work in this city. But they just weren't sharing that great stuff with one another. So what we wanted to do was build an employer brand, which is called See the Difference, and make sure that was the golden thread that really resonated and worked through every piece of internal communications before we took that communications externally. So, range of different things. First thing was to look at CSR. They all make pledges, so they all got together at their conference, they all pledged how they were going to help local communities. So this was about helping people keep their pledges. The next thing was about launching the employer brand. I'm going to try and read this copy to you. My eyes aren't what they used to be, sorry. But thanks to us, Millie sleeps soundly at night. Everyone here loves playing their part in improving our communities and people's lives. So we're right to feel proud of our work and excited about the future. Our people are the heart of One Manchester, and together we can see the difference we're making in this special city. Let's all sleep well at night, knowing Millie has a brighter future because we care. So that is really, I make no apology for it being an emotional thing, because that's the story of why people get up to work and do a really tough job, not for a great deal of money, with an amazing organisation. It's all very purpose-led. So we needed to communicate things about the new harmonised, and we all know what harmonised benefits mean, don't we? All work in HR. To look at how they were going to communicate the 7 strategies across the business. And also to embed the values. And you can see there's a real golden thread that works through this whole See the Difference, this look and feel, so that every time somebody encounters one of these messages, they know it's for them. They know it's an important thing that they need to see, read, and understand. But it keeps promoting this, this message of together we're making and seeing the difference. I feel quite passionate about that one. I don't know if you noticed.
Okay, final C in the 4 C's is commend. And this story is of a business called Assurant. They are one of the largest global insurance and gadget insurance businesses in the world. We had to adopt their EVP strapline of best place to work and learn. There isn't a great deal of evidence around that. It was given to us from the States and we were told to get on with it. So Helen here is responsible for recruitment for 6 countries. She heads up the recruitment team for EMEA. Their referral scheme has been really successful for them for the last 6 to 8 years, always getting 30 to 40% of their hires through their referral program. It's bread and butter for the call centre. It just works wonders. The challenge this time round, and they relaunch their referral every 2 years, the challenge this time round was head office weren't participating, and with the growth across EMEA, there were more roles than just contact centre to focus on. They also have a diabolical intranet. It's just, you just can't use it. It's from the States. Nobody knows how to log on, let alone access it. I think the only thing people look at is the lunch menu in the restaurant. So one of the barriers to referral was people didn't actually know what vacancies were live and what they could refer people to. So that was one of the other major challenges. They wanted to enable people to refer on their mobile, and they wanted to have some fun. So before we relaunched the referral scheme, we sent a survey out to the total population, and the majority feedback was, we just want to have some fun. We are a fun, culture-led organisation, but we actually appear like a very boring corporate financial services business. And it was head office that said, we're a very engaging, lively, fun, energetic team. It just doesn't come across like that. So if we're relaunching referral, let's have some fun whilst we're doing it. So we changed the reference to referrals and called it talent spotters. And that was because people in head office were like, to be quite honest, we don't refer friends into these roles. And they wanted to elevate talent on the agenda and in vocabulary more than just refer a friend. So we created talent spotters. We also helped them introduce some new incentives. So they use a similar platform to Talentry that talked earlier, which enables people to, it drags all the vacancies from the ATS, people can share them throughout their social networks, and they get points, which mean prizes for sharing vacancies, referring people, getting them to interview when they're hired, etc. So new technology was really important to help them overcome the issues of a bad intranet and no awareness of vacancies. And more importantly was driving participation and awareness of the referral scheme. So we created the creative concept and the theme around this, but then helped them market it with some gusto. There was a big launch event. They actually used it as one of their annual engagement events. Everything was done equally across all 6 countries. Everything was translated. Everybody had equal treats and participation in the day. So this is just some of the event that happened and some of the marketing that happened around this. And whilst this was big effort for the launch, there's actually a 12-month marketing strategy around this as well to keep it fresh and front of mind, because like every call centre, they suffer from really high turnover. So they've got new people coming through the door all the time, so it's built into the induction process as well, so that people will refer at whatever stage they're at. And I think we've got a video of the launch day, if it plays.
Today we're launching the new employee referral program, Talent Spotters. It's all about launching the new concept based upon 5 monsters, which is really engaging to drive more and more employees to refer their friends and family to Assurance.
The launch of Talent Spotters has been a huge success across the European business.
We're in Spain, Italy, France and Germany. There's lots of incentives all the way through the hiring process. Cash incentives within the call centre, £500, for a head office role up to £1,000.
Per friend that you refer, you get a £20 voucher for every interview that they attend, and if they get the job and stay in the position for more than 3 months, you get £500 bonus on your payslip.
I referred Sam when Stanley ended up getting the job. She was looking for a new challenge in her life, so I said, like, well, come and try what we're doing. She come, got the interview and got the job. She's loving it. She's started doing overtime and that now as well, so she's committed to the job now. The people that stay here the longest are the ones that are referred, and plus a bonus of £500 in your back pocket as well.
The new website is launched today, talentspotters.co.uk.
We've introduced an app to make it really easy for our employees to refer their friends and family members.
Everybody's been signing up to our new referral platform and has been sharing all our roles across social media and professional networks such as LinkedIn.
We have a monthly prize draw where any employee who's referred anybody can win Monster Awards up to £1,000.
There's been a selfie mirror, there's been lots of face painting, there's been obviously the food's been available and everyone's had a free lunch today, which has gone down a treat with everybody. And lots of Monster Munch as well, in line with the theme.
I've enjoyed the experience, the culture at the end of the day, so it's been a great atmosphere, and I know last year it was the same as well, so it's even better this year.
I found today very exciting. It's good to know that the company do different activities like this.
Like, I love this job, I think it's great. Like, the people that you work with are great.
Over the last 8 years since we've been running with this programme, we've paid over £500,000 in incentives to employees who've referred talent into the business.
And I don't want to put you off doing anything like this, but it's probably worth mentioning that the person in the suit was the talent manager. Okay? So take personal responsibility for this. So a couple of quick slides at the end. Obviously, employer branding isn't a vanity project. Employer brands to us exist to enable organisations to keep the customer promise and to drive organisational performance. So we should measure them on those criteria. Yes, we've got our usual HR metrics, time to hire, cost per hire, etc., size of talent pools, but we should be looking at productivity and profitability as much as anything else. And we've got additional measures that we put in place, things like we have a live dashboard, very much the things you've heard today about making sure that every penny that is spent on your attraction budget works as hard as possible and can be tracked live, and we give credit where credit's due. But the main thing is that gives you the confidence to be creative. I think if we're going to give one takeaway today, it's have the confidence to be yourselves, have that confidence to understand who you really are. And once you've defined who you really are, you'll be able to have those conversations, those positive conversations with people. That means that some of them will opt out and some of them will opt in, but those people that opt in will be emotionally and psychologically and culturally aligned with you. So be confident about who you are and who you're not. So we'd like to help you do that and have that confidence. And as the guys from the in-house team know, we always like to leave you with a little gift. And if we were earlier on, we could have done this a little bit better, but, you know, because I was in the graveyard slot, never mind. Wouldn't it be great if you could define where you're starting from on your employer brand journey? Wouldn't it be great if you can identify where your priorities are? Wouldn't it be great if you can use data to make sure you can secure extra budget and understand what the strategic priorities really are? And then, having done that, assess your ongoing progress. Well, we'd like to give someone here today the opportunity to do that. And so we'd like to give away a free workshop. Free workshop on any of these topics. We do much more than just employer branding, on attraction strategy, employer referral programs, career science, people comms, whatever it may be. And all we ask you to do is simply, if you can just text workshop, that's text workshop, to that number, and then, because we've run against time, and I'm the only thing standing against you and the bar, we'll get out your way and we'll do the draw when we've got all that. So if you can find some time, just text workshop to that, we'll do the draw, and we'll ask, we'll get in touch with you, but we'll also ask if Natasha can circulate that to everybody who attended.